joining us today. We're here to talk about period dignity and period equality and the solutions that are on offer across England and Wales, both through the DfE scheme and the Welsh Government schemes. I'm joined today by my colleague Simon Burton from PHS Direct, and also lucky enough to be joined by two of our customers as well. First of all, Sarah, who's from Powys Council. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sarah Quibell from Powys County Council, and I'm Professional Lead for Education Support Services.
Thanks, Sarah. And also by Grace as well. Grace, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. So, hi everyone, my name is Grace Turner and I'm the CSR, so the Corporate Social Responsibility and Volunteer Coordinator at Portland College. Portland College is a specialist college and we're based in Mansfield, Nottinghamshire.
Great, thank you very much, Grace. And Simon, I briefly introduced you, but would you like to give a bit more about your role?
Yes, certainly. So I do the day-to-day administration for the Department for Education contract, which entitles all the state schools within England a range of free sanitary products. We do everything from processing the orders to delivery and interacting with the schools.
Excellent, thanks, Simon. And I'm Chris Brown, Head of Public Sector for PHS Group. Fortunate enough to sit on the round table with the Welsh Government in terms of the period equality scheme there, and I've been involved in the Westminster Taskforce as well. So lucky enough to have a view on both England and Wales. So I'll kick off, if that's okay, panel, with a question to you first, Simon. Could you just explain, the basics of how the DfE scheme works? Just give an overview of how that scheme actually works and who's eligible.
Okay, so back in January 2020, the Department for Education decided to start the distribution of the free sanitary products to all the state schools in England. It was based on the number of learners within a certain age group. They were all given an individual spend limit. Individual activation links were sent out based on the individual UK PRN to each school, whereby they have the ability to log in and choose what products they would like to order and be delivered. I also have a team of people that are able to answer questions or process the orders for them if they're struggling with the website or they prefer us to do it for them. We stock a full range, which was decided at the beginning of the scheme, from mainstream products that you would see in the supermarkets through to a full organic offering and reusable products.
Brilliant, thanks, Simon. And does the scheme cover primary and secondary schools in England, or is it just secondary?
The scheme actually covers learners from the year 5 up until year 11.
Okay, great. So it starts in primary and goes all the way through to the end of secondary. Does it cover higher education at all, Simon?
Up until the age of 18.
Up until the age of 18, great. So that could include sixth forms, colleges, etc. Excellent, thank you. So Sarah, could you just explain, and hello Sarah, could you please explain how the Welsh Government scheme is slightly different to the DfE scheme? It sounds like there are some fundamental differences, so it'd be good to hear it from your point of view.
Yes, certainly. The grant is issued to each local authority, and within that there's a smaller community element and then a larger schools element. The grant is clear on how that should be discharged in respect of the schools element, so it has to be for free feminine hygiene products. And there are a couple of other elements, so you can buy waterproof pouches, or you can get replacement clothing, which is waist down clothing, so to support learners should that be needed. But then there's no, other than the amount of sustainable products, which is set at 50% that we need to purchase, there's no real guidance about how many or what type of feminine hygiene products that you should purchase, and that's really left at a local level.
Okay, so most of the councils and therefore the schools across Wales are potentially doing a variation of the same sort of theme, but could be doing it different ways.
Absolutely. We moved to a county-wide approach, and we're in the second year of that county-wide approach. And that was for two reasons, really: to ensure there was parity of approach for all girls in our schools, and also it's easier for one person centrally to do it than to have 94 schools each doing it. So really benefit in two ways there.
Yeah, so you're coordinating the approach for all the schools across Powys, so there's a uniform approach across all the schools. And are you finding, in terms of the girls, are they giving feedback on the products they like or don't like, or the schools giving you that feedback?
Yeah, so whilst I coordinate, I do discuss with schools and with head teachers, and we have a named person that I liaise with from each school. So it really is an approach that's achieved between us. And for example, we do have VENs within our secondary schools, but that's very much a discussion with the schools. How many would they like? So it is not just a central decision. It's about what's needed in each individual school site. But to pick up on your question about feedback from the girls, yes, we have had some, and that's something we're looking to increase really as we're moving out of COVID, and that kind of pupil voice becomes slightly easier. That's certainly something we're looking to improve on moving forward.
Thanks, Sarah. That's great. A couple of points that you've made, really good points. Then one of them I want to pick up with Grace, if that's all right. But the point about the VENs, because you've got a blended approach, haven't you, across the council? So you actually have both vended product and non-vended. So you're able to provide kind of bulk supplies, but also discrete solutions in washrooms. What was the driver behind that approach for you?
When we were looking at the county-wide approach, we looked at kind of research that was available on what girls favoured, and it really was a mixture, because it depends on the girl as to how she may wish to access her products. So we really thought that we'd like to give the coin-free vended solution in our high schools so that it could be accessed in toilets, but also so there was a stock with a nominated person, because if someone felt more comfortable approaching, say, the wellbeing lead or whomever had been nominated, that was also available. So to make products available in as many ways as possible, really.
Yeah, great. And Grace, just picking up on what Sarah was saying, a question for you. In terms of your student mix and the profile of your school, your college, are you getting feedback from students? Do you find it relative that the products are suitable for your students? Have you got any feedback on that?
Yeah, so I actually ordered them. So when I ordered them, there were some products that wouldn't be suitable for our students. We do have students that are one-to-one support, and the products probably wouldn't be suitable for them. So we were able to still get quite a few, and it's gone out to our different departments. So we have our main day college, we have a day service, and we also have residential departments. So each department was able to access them and to have them. And feedback's been very good. It's helping some of our students as well, because they may have communication difficulties. So we have been doing different social stories. We've had like these little discrete questions and answer cards given out, and we've got little ones that say go up to our main reception and ask them for the products. We can't have them in our toilets, but they're accessible from our main reception, and also different manager heads, as well as learning support assistants, tutors and things like that as well.
Excellent, thank you. And I guess the question to all of you, perhaps first for you, Simon, is what's the DFE done in terms of raising awareness, or is it very much down to each school to raise the awareness? I guess both at a school level, so the schools and colleges aware that they've got access to this scheme, and then at a student and teacher level, are they aware as well?
So, excuse me, right at the beginning of the launch of the scheme, there was a lot of publicity through Parliament and direct emails and interaction through various other third-party organisations that have contact with the schools. PHS have also done various campaigns, both on social media, as well as different ways, because of what happened last year, of the students being able to access the product. At the relaunch of the scheme again in January this year, again we sent out activation emails and then reminder emails So we've seen a lot larger take up this year compared to last. So I think the message is definitely out there.
Great, thank you. And Grace, from your point of view, were the college aware from the kind of kick-off, or was it something that you picked up on?
So it was something that I think there was some kind of contact at last year, but it was never followed through. And then obviously COVID happened, and with a lot of our students being vulnerable, we had a very few students on site. So once it came around this year, we definitely got involved straight away with it. And we did, I did a press release that went on our social medias, and we sent internal news bulletins and information out. And I know that some of our curriculum managers are looking at creating sessions around the product and about growing up and everything that comes with it for our students, working with our we have an information, advice, guidance and transition team, so they do different workshops throughout the year, and I know that they're looking at doing the workshops so our students can get a better understanding and can understand where the products are and how they can get hold of them as well.
That's excellent. Yeah, really good. And have you had any feedback from parents at all as well?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment, but you know, I know that, like I said, I know our students are really grateful for it, and you know, we're trying to encourage that it's nothing to be embarrassed about, and to, you know, most of our students will go through it, so and need the product, so we're just trying to build that relationship and the confidence with our students that they can ask us and talk to us. But I'm sure our parents, we've got a great community, so they're very, you know, positive about a lot of things that we do.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm sure it'll take time, I'm sure, for the scheme to filter through as well. And so Sarah, slightly different in Wales in terms of, I think, awareness of the scheme, certainly amongst the council members, was quite high, but at a local level and certainly at a school level, were the schools aware as well, or is that something you've had to work quite hard?
No, the schools were aware because the grant has been in existence for, I think, 1 or 2 years longer than we've been doing the central approach. But also there were Welsh Government posts on social media about the grant, which schools would pick up themselves. I sometimes take calls from parents who are wanting to know about the scheme, and I'm able to advise them what's available in their school. So yeah, there is good awareness, and I think we were able to provide bilingual posters to the school so they can put them up on the wall to indicate where products are available for the girls. So yeah, I think awareness is good. And as I said earlier, what's really key is that liaising with the schools, so they're aware of any changes, they can feed back on any change in requirements they may have. And, you know, feedback on the experience of the girls. And, you know, we have had a request for some sustainable products, or perhaps looking at the wider range so that the sixth form learners can have a look at what's available across the full range of products, really.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because there's been quite a drive, hasn't there, particularly across Wales, for reusable products, the removal of plastics. And I know that we've certainly been talking about some of the more sustainable, reusable products, and trying to give sample packs to schools, allowing the girls to make an informed decision about, you know, it becomes a lifestyle choice, but an informed one about what they want to do in terms of products. So that's really positive. So I'm just want to take it back a step, if I can, just in terms of people who be, you know, listening to this podcast, to this webinar, and they're trying to pick up information about the products and how it works across schools in England, because it is different between England and Wales. Obviously, the Welsh Government provide these grants. You know, the Welsh authorities are then able to use that grants with their schools, usually in a centralised process, what many of them are doing. We provide that usually on what we call a contracted consumables basis. So we provide 8 deliveries a year throughout the kind of school calendar to try and even out supply and make sure that it gets to the girls in a kind of fairly sustainable way. So there's not like a whole bunch of deliveries. You know, they're not overwhelmed by stock. How does it work in England? It's slightly different, isn't it? You order when you need it?
So one of the things that the DfE feel very strongly about is that the schools have full autonomy over how they decide and choose what they want to order, when, how they distribute. they think that the school will know their learners better than any sort of third party. So they leave everything down to the individual schools. So last year when we went into lockdown and obviously the summer holidays, we saw a massive uptake in September when all the schools returned, and finding that a lot of the schools were ordering their entire budget in one go. This year, I thought we'd have more of an even balance, and it has happened to an extent, but due to being heavily overstocked, as you mentioned, Chris, with being overwhelmed with so much product, it looks like it's almost going to mirror again the same this year. So although we've been slightly more successful on trend this year, I still believe when the schools return after the summer holidays, the main influx of orders will happen between then and December.
Yeah, sure, understood. I guess as the scheme becomes more successful, the more people know about it, the more that drives orders, and they'll over time, I would imagine they'll get more used to how the scheme works, and they'll flatten their orders out throughout their school year. It's quite early days for everyone, really, isn't it?
That would be an ideal scenario, but yeah, there's no general trend. Each school orders as and when. The website's 24/7, so they can order over the weekend. They can actually still order throughout the summer holidays. Obviously, we then pick up the phone and double check, is somebody there to receive it? Can we place delivery? We can actually deliver to an alternate school within the scheme if they request it. So yeah, there is no trend that you could put your finger on currently.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. And by alternate school, do you mean if they make an order and they need to send it to another location? Is that what you meant? Sorry.
So as a prime example, last year, key worker children were still in school. Not every school was open. They were sent to another location. So a teacher from the school that was closed and not offering that could place an order. We would then send it to an alternate address. So we can deliver to another location within the scheme, but we can't deliver to, say, the head teacher's house.
Okay, makes sense. And Grace, just picking up on what Simon was saying, how did you at Portland College, how did you work out the kind of quantities that you'd need, I guess, initially, and then have you adapted your approach after your first delivery based on what you learned?
Yeah, so the first time, I think it was just kind of figuring out, how much we would actually get and how popular it could possibly be. So I know we did a smaller order first, and then that kind of, when that came, it kind of like disappeared straight away, and all the different departments had it. And then within, I think, only probably 4 or 5 weeks later, we then put another order in for the rest of our costs, and then again that's just gone again. So we know it's been quite popular. So I think when we commence September, I think more getting involved with all the different department heads and see when would be the best times to order the products, really.
Yeah, it's a complete learning experience, isn't it? You've not had this before, and the scheme's still relatively new. I guess it's in its infancy, really. So we're all learning as we go. So it's great to share this information, because I'm sure there's a lot of schools out there that are wondering, how they access this pot of money and this product, and also how it works and how best to use it as well. So to share best practice and our learning is really, really useful. Simon, I think you touched on this before, but can I just check with you, is it only state-funded schools that are eligible for the DfE scheme, or are private schools also eligible?
Yeah, only state funded. So we do get a lot of inquiries from private schools asking if they can be part of the scheme. And no, unfortunately not.
Okay, great. And is there a fixed selection of products? I know you talked about the product range being quite broad. Is there a kind of fixed selection within that, or how wide and wonderful is the range?
So the product range is identical to what was set right at the beginning of the scheme a year and a half ago. There are Always Ultra and Tampax in different flow rates. There are reusable Nora Mini and Midi pads that come along with a wet bag called the Out and About bag. There's a full range of lillettes from day and night EnviroPads, an organic range of non-applicator tampons, and then the SmartFit range that they do. And we also provide the Moon Cup.
Excellent, thank you. And Sarah, if I can jump across to Wales again, in terms of how it works for you guys, how do you work out the quantity per school? Is it based on student population, size of school, that kind of thing, or?
What we did first was look at type of school before we looked at quantity. So, for example, our primary schools, where we're just providing for the girls aged 9 and over, we just went for a one-off delivery, a reasonable amount for the school that would last them through the year. So they have one delivery a year of pads only. And then looking at our special schools, again, VENs weren't felt to be appropriate there after liaising with the head teachers. And again, we just went for pads and a couple of specific types of pad there. And then moving to the secondary schools, that's where we've got a range of pads and tampons and through the range of deliveries. But in terms of quantity, very much as Grace said, we had to kind of make a judgment call to start with, based on kind of pupil numbers and then looking at the frequency of delivery for the secondary schools. And I think actually we've probably got the quantity about right. What we're looking at is increasing our VENs in some of those schools that have asked for it, and also for the first time introducing a couple of VENs into a couple of our larger primary schools, but again just with pads only, just to see how that goes, and that was requested by those primary schools. So I went around the answer there. Sorry, Chris.
No, not at all. That's great. I think the more information, the better. It's always important to share. I think it's important that we do recognise there's not a prescribed set way of answering these things. Everyone's slightly different. So I think it's important that we explain how we've arrived where we are now, and we are still learning throughout the schemes. It's not an exact science, basically. It's interesting that the VENs have proved so popular, and that you're now taking them into primary settings just with pads. But I think that'll be a really interesting, development across Wales. I'm keen to see how that works.
And we've gone with a lesser delivery schedule there as well. So just the 4 times a year. So yeah, I'm keen to see how that goes as well. And I think my main message would be about what do the learners want and need? What do the types of schools want and need, rather than just, I've got a grant and I need to do something with it, really. I think, and perhaps that's why it's been well received, because we try to give a variety of products in a variety of ways, and are still trying to improve on that, working with our schools to do so.
Yeah, very much. And so now I want to revisit something we spoke about earlier, and Simon, you touched on it, but I think Grace, you mentioned it as well. Sarah, I'm sure it's a big deal for you, which was the impact of the pandemic and how you still managed to get product, if we still managed to get product to those who needed it. Sarah, as we were already talking about the vended solution, perhaps you could just kind of highlight what Powys did during those periods of lockdown when a lot of girls weren't in school.
Yeah, so there was a kind of a mixed approach, really. When we knew that schools would be closing back in March last year, then, we asked schools to make products available, from the products that were on site. Please, could they give them to the girls so they could take some home? Because at that point, none of us knew how long this would play out, but at least there was some to take home. We obviously were up and down in terms of learners being in school and not in school last year, and we did explore different options such as collection from central points or sending to houses. But due to the social distancing and the rurality of Powys, kind of collection from central points seemed to go against the not being close to one another. So we kind of took a few approaches. We were allowed to give vouchers by the Welsh Government. They confirmed that we were allowed to give vouchers. So in periods of lockdown, we issued those to our parents who had children eligible for free school meals. We also purchased packs, and you'll forgive me, Chris, I've forgotten the name, teen starter packs, that's it.
That's the one.
And each of our girls had one of those to take home that had a range of products in as well. And then also still having delivery, so the products were there for the girls to take when they were in school, which was quite in and out, wasn't it, in terms of attendance actually on site.
Yes, it was. It was a huge challenge for everyone, wasn't it? Grace, how did you? Thanks very much for that, Sarah, by the way. And Grace, how did it impact the college? I'm assuming quite dramatically, but how did you overcome that challenge?
So we had, like I said, quite a lot, if probably about 90% of students off-site. And as Sarah was saying, they were coming back, and then, you know, obviously the vaccination helped a lot of our students, you know, to come back on site. So it was, you know, it was a bit of a nightmare. It's been a bit of a horrible year, and especially for our guys that like the routine and stuff. It's, you know, it's been nice to get them back on. But like I said, we didn't really pick up on the scheme until this year. So once we did, a majority, if not most of our students were back on site. So it was easy to then tell them about the scheme, tell them why we're doing it, and just give them a bit more information about it.
Yeah, thank you. It's almost like the pandemic helped to reset the thinking around the scheme as well, which I guess it challenged all of our thinking around what was possible and what was likely to happen in future, you know, terms and educational settings. We were all on the back foot for a while, weren't we? So certainly made us think again. And Simon, just taking that a bit wider, did you see a kind of DFE wide approach, or was it very much individual schools trying to find their own solutions through that period of time?
One of the main policies of the DFE was, and the whole point of the scheme was to get the learners back into school, so not having a reason for missing lessons because they're on their period. So it almost sort of contradicts the fact that everybody had been sent home, and, you know, during COVID and during lockdown. So anything that was done would be down to the individual school. So I know that they did have pickup points, although not the most favourable. The most effective thing that we were doing was delivering to a school that we knew that was open. And I did get asked a lot of, on many occasions, you know, what are other schools doing? And it's difficult because everybody was different, and I didn't really want to base my opinion again, because it's down to the individual schools, and they know whether it's safe for them to come in, or they know ways of distributing. So there was no sort of universal approach, Chris. It was literally down to each school how they wanted to do it. And a lot of the schools didn't place any order until they returned. So didn't actually physically have access to the product because we all went down into lockdown in March, sorry, and everybody was caught out. So yeah, down to the individual schools it was.
Okay, great, thank you.
And can I add something, Chris? Is that okay?
Please do, yeah.
I think it's also important to remember that in the first lockdown we had school hubs open. So that was for our key workers and vulnerable learners. So we had a lot of children on site as well who were able to access products. And then moving through to the autumn, all of the schools were open, even during lockdown, again for vulnerable learners and learners of key worker families. So again, there was still quite a wide number of pupils that were able to access products on site as well, even during lockdown.
Yeah, very, very good point, actually. And also, you've got that link with your community services as well, haven't you? So that's kind of a holistic approach that's kind of helped to maybe offset some of the challenges of lockdown.
And I think that's a real benefit of the scheme that we have, because we are able to provide support to the community as well. And this year, those two elements have been brought into one offer so that we can work collaboratively. And I think that would really help if we end up in similar situations again. And we are going to be working with colleagues over the summer to look at what approaches we can take for the next academic year.
Excellent, yeah, and you've led me nicely into what I think is my last question for you all, which is that what challenges have we encountered so far, and what have we learnt from those challenges, or what one thing would we change? Silence. So if I ask that question directly to Grace, if you've got anything you've learned from the scheme or the challenges that have happened for the college, anything you'd like to change?
I don't know if it would be linked to it, but I guess it is kind of a bit of a challenge. So some of the products, as I said previously, aren't suitable for our students. And Sarah mentioned stuff about clothing. So, you know, if we were able to get the chance to get different products, so whether that's pants, anything like that, which would help our students more, then that would be great. But obviously, I know there is an age limit onto the scheme, and we are open from 16 to 25, but you know, a lot of our students are 18 plus. So you know, if there was to be some more products that may be suitable for the SEN community and for, you know, SEN schools, primary schools, sixth forms, etc., that would be really beneficial. You know, tampons can be hard to use, and for our students that have you know, different disabilities, they're probably not able to use them. And you know, if they do need that support, and if it's with personal care and stuff like that, that's been an issue for our guys. So that's why we've stuck with the sanitary pads. But you know, a challenge there for us is somewhat a bit of a limitation for our guys. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but it's been an issue that we, you know, when we were ordering, we were thinking, you know, that's not going to be suitable. And, you know, if there were more things available, it would really benefit us.
May I?
No, please do, Simon, yeah.
Grace, what I was going to say is the product offering a year and a half ago isn't necessarily what everybody wants sort of these days, and I can see how people's priorities have changed. There's a lot larger focus on reusable and organic. So I know at the end of this year, we're set to review the whole product offering, which will include, as in the offering that we're going to run past the DFE, will be everything from a teens style pad through to reusable underwear, and lots of other different products that have come onto the market now that maybe weren't available at the beginning of the scheme or weren't in the forefront of people's minds as much. So you will see a different offering, I'm hoping, from December next year. Well, December this year.
Yeah, that'll be great, especially because some of our students have communication issues, and they can't always tell you when it is the time of the month and stuff like that. So if they've got that there just as a security, you know, and then they've not got that worry of, oh, when is it going to happen? You know, they've kind of got that in place.
Yeah, that's great. The more feedback I think we all get, the better it helps to shape the schemes going forward. So it's fantastic. Thank you. And Sarah, the same kind of question to you from a Powys point of view. What challenges have you found?
I wouldn't call it a challenge. We just wanted to make sure that there was an appropriate approach in place for all of our schools. But the key thing I've learned, I think, is to keep it as a live discussion, keep revisiting it. Just because you've got a contract or an order doesn't mean to say that you should just leave it. You know, products change, the girls in the school change. So just really to be proactive in making sure there's as wide a choice available for them within the remit of, you know, the scheme you're operating, and yeah, really just make it a live offer that changes to the needs of the girls.
Yeah, excellent point. Really, really good point. And having those discussions with people like PHS as well as your suppliers, it really helps to inform, you know, what we're doing as well. Sharing of information, sharing best just sharing what we've learned only helps to enhance the schemes that are on offer. So, okay, well, thanks everybody. That was a really great discussion. I think we covered a number of key points there, and I've certainly learned a lot. So thank you all very much indeed for your time. If I could, thanks Sarah, thanks Grace, thanks Simon. So I think if I could, I'll just signpost people to the fact there's going to be some more details in the following slides. There's also going to be some free lesson plans available for teachers and schools, so there'll be activities as well, and those lesson plans, by the way, will be available in both English and Welsh, and they cover year 4 to year 9 students, and there's going to be activities to include both boys and girls to help remove some of the stigma attached to period equality and period dignity, and there will also be presentations available for teachers that explains how to use those free to use guides. So more information, if you need it, is available on our website at phs.co.uk/period equality. But as I say, all the information will be attached to the following slides. So thank you very much.